Oh, hi there. You just called me dream patching on my analog computer. But this is not the topic of this video, though. It will probably come in at a later point. This is the third part of my series on making an album. And we're in a good situation because I've already written that piece. I was playing a rather mellow set on the Seat Lombard, and I wanted to go out on a big blaze of sound. That got me thinking about a topic that is pretty dear to anything that I do when I compose, and that is contrast. Even in ambient music, with contrast, you will make the music better, more engaging. You might argue that you don't want to have engaging ambient music, you just want it to be background, but I disagree. All the works that are great in that field, like the selected ambient works, like the stuff that Brian Eno did, Harold Budd, all these works, they are engaging. And I would argue that contrast plays a large part in that. That is why I want to use the production and further writing process of the track I'm going to do today to illuminate some of the concepts of contrast that I am employing in my music. This track itself is a contrast because I set out with a decided goal for this album. I wanted to have something against this looming darkness and threat. But this track, as you might have already heard, is a rather dark track. I think that is a good thing in the context of an album. If the whole album would only concentrate on the uplifting side of things, trying to motivate, I think that would be telling a lie. I think we have to embrace the darkness to see the light. And that is why to have a piece that is different from the others in tone and intention, to really go into that world, perfect to have on an album. Let's talk about how to achieve contrast. The first thing is instrumentation. For this piece, I've chosen a toy piano. That was, of course, for practical reasons, because I couldn't lift the real piano up to the balcony, but also because it tells a different story. They are more innocent, yet that can quickly, as I got from many of your comments, delve into horror, as toy pianos have been involved because they sound innocent, and then you contrast it with something starker in horror films a lot. So that might also be conditioning by your listening habits. But a toy piano is just more whimsical than a piano. It's not as serious. It's not like, this is the way. It's more like, is this the way? So that's the question these instruments ask for me, and especially in that context where you've got a driving syntax, like, I'm sure this is the way, this is where we're going. Something like this is like a question mark. So you've got this contrast between something that asks and something that seems to know, or is the world, basically. One is acoustic and the other is electronic. So that in itself, in timbre, is another contrast. I'm processing the toy piano through the Seat Lombardi gear. And then I can play it using the Menke voltage memory. So I can send control voltage to the pitch of the Coco Quantus, and then I can play it like it was a sample. To make the instrumentation on this track richer and add an even more apocalyptic feeling, I'm happy to have Andrew Raffo on this. We already collaborated here in Berlin on a track I did for a theater play. His special style of playing the saxophone added so much humanity to the thumping test equipment sound.
So one of the things that Heinbach asked me to do was talk a little bit about some of the techniques that I use. Nothing that I've invented. Many other people have used these techniques. I just have my personal take on them. Multiphonics, which is where you can essentially play multiple tones from a single tone, playing chords almost through very, kind of unique special fingerings on the horn that split the tone into a chord complex or into a tone complex. Another thing that I use is bispigliando. Play a note and then you trill a different note. It changes the color, the timbre of the sound, and it also sometimes, depending on how you use it, can also create some microtonal possibilities. This horn that I'll be playing is a 1926 Kahn soprano saxophone. I've been fortunate to play it for the last 25 years, and it's a beautiful instrument. It has a very unique sound, even amongst sopranos. Has a kind of a rich, dark timbre. I'm recording today using an AEA R84 ribbon microphone. So I ended up recording 10 tracks of soprano saxophone and kind of going for a Terry Riley ecstatic acoustic additive synthesis approach, like a choir almost, a saxophone choir, instead of a sort of soloistic single line approach.
Harmony is an incredibly important part, even in ambient electronic music, and it's so often overlooked. Simply going to the dominant or subdominant chord of what you are playing, so the fourth or the fifth, if you are in C, that will be the F for the subdominant and the G for the dominant chord, it can open up so much. I personally really like to just be like in this one chord, one modal thing, and then to lift it up in the middle eight, to give it a perspective and to change maybe even the whole harmony. It's like you're going on a little platform. This is the world. This is the context of the song. And is there another thing compared to that song? And you can do that easily with a harmonic step. Harmonic contrast makes the track as a whole structurally more appealing. And if people have been tuning out to it, which is perfect, this will just be like a little, interesting. And then you go back and you're on familiar ground again. It's for audience very pleasing because they know what happened before. They see this fork in the road and experience it and then go back to the way that it was before, and they know, okay, we're on the good path. For me, I often do this harmonic change at about 66% of the track. So basically, I think in German you call it der goldene Schnitt, golden cut. It's a technique of relation that stems back to the antique days. For my music, that works really well, and every time I don't do it, I miss that. Same thing, like I try to make a nice ending to a track, it's doing the music a disservice if I don't have this little platform and this little perspective in there. Just the decent thing to do to the music, to give it that kind of harmonic contrast. Tempo can also be used for contrast. In electronic music, it's kind of hard to do the naturally slowing down and speeding up that bands do, and sometimes twofold, especially if they're in new bands. Like I remember my school band days when the drummer counted in and then we started to play in a completely different tempo. In my opinion, that is not really necessary for electronic music. I like to emphasize the machines. So in machines, the repetition is beautiful. Half the clock. And suddenly everything is and you're going in the slow-mo mode, and everything feels like you're dragging through the mud, and then you go fast again. Already you've created a nice contrast. Or you add in instruments that emphasize the halftime or the double time. Double time is very effective, like to add like a ding, 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 ding. That can work really well if everything else is slower. So you're constantly shifting the perception of speed. And lots of what's now called IDM, it used to be called brain dance, which I really liked more as a term, relies on having different tempi apparent. So slow up top, but super fast drums. So that would already create this sense of, shifting. And while your body moves, your brain is slower. That has really formed my opinion on how to work with rhythms. Dynamics. I'm not talking about big explosions. I'm talking about build-ups. So you get an increase in volume and texture. And then you drop to a point where you mute a bunch of tracks. Just mute them and have only a few details playing, and then you go back. Or even having just a moment of silence before the next thing comes in. Leaving space and leaving points where there can be silence in there. Almost silence, near silence, room tone. That can be such a magical operation. When it comes to the mixing stage, there is one aesthetic choice that I often hear that I don't personally agree with, because I think it makes everything sound less exciting. And that is slathering everything in reverb. Something like a Strymon Big Sky or an Eventide Black Hole is addictive. It sounds good and everything gets this wide, spacious, I'm flying on the Nostromo through space. If you have some dry signals up front, everything that is wet, full of reverb, will sound more wet. Syntrax lends itself to that, to have that up front and dry. Or with only space added via echoes. They are a different kind of spatiality to them that doesn't make the sound appear to be too washed out. And then at these big backgrounds full of Alesis, Quadra Verb or Valhalla plugins. That can create such a richer world than if everything was just distance and far. It's like a picture. You've got a foreground and a background and a middle ground. And you've got all these ways to move between them, and consider stacking it like you would a picture. There's one big way to create contrast that I haven't discussed yet, and I think it deserves its own video, and that is call and response or counterpoint. All these ways to make the melodies themselves talk and to make the music communicate. So you get music that chatters, is alive, like a conversation. And I think, yeah, I'm gonna do a video on that. This track will be on the new album. If you want it now, you can just join up for the Patreon, the 3.75 IPS tier, and then you get the music from all my videos. And thanks everybody who supports me there. You are the reason I can keep on making these videos. If you have any questions, please do ask in the comments and visit the subreddit if you want to talk more in depth. That's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.